Most people assume that if they ever looked into a mirror and saw a stranger, they would scream. They assumed the reaction would be immediate, violent, a rejection of the impossible. But I have learned that the human mind is a fragile, desperate machine, and when confronted with a true impossibility, it does not scream. It rationalizes. It smooths over the rough edges of reality until the nightmare looks just like a dream. I first saw him on a Tuesday. It was a Tuesday like any author, a gray light filtering through the kitchen blinds, the smell of cheap coffee beans, the distant hum of traffic 6 floors down. I was standing at the sink, rinsing out a mug, my eyes tired, my mind already wandering to the commute ahead. I looked up. There was a smudge on the glass, a handprint perhaps left by the previous tenant, or just the city grime finally creeping in. I reached out to wipe it away. That was when I noticed the reflection wasn't moving with me. I paused, my hand hovering in midair. The water from the faucet continued to run, a steady, rhythmic drumbeat against the ceramic. I blinked. The reflection blinked. I moved my hand to the left. The reflection moved its hand to the right. It was a mirror. It was doing what a mirror does. I laughed, a short, sharp sound that died instantly in the quiet room. I told myself I was tired. I told myself I was stressed. I turned off the water and walked away, refusing to look back at the glass where the image seemed to linger a fraction of a second too long before fading into the shadows. But the feeling remained. A cold prickling at the base of my neck. The distinct, crawling sensation of being watched from behind my own eyes. 3 days later, I saw him again. I was leaving my apartment building, stepping into the lobby where the fluorescent lights buzz with a low, headache-inducing frequency. The security guard, an older man who usually dozes over a crossword puzzle, was awake. He looked past me, his eyes widening slightly, a flicker of confused recognition crossing his face. He lifted a hand to greet me, then stopped, his hand frozen in the air as if he had seen a ghost. I turned to see what he was looking at. There was only the glass door, the street outside, the rain beginning to fall. "Sir?" I asked. He shook his head, muttering something about double vision, and waved me through. But as I pushed the door open, I caught my reflection in the glass. It wasn't me. Or, it was me, but not the me I am now. The face in the glass was drawn, the skin tighter against the skull, the eyes sunken and darkened by years of sleepless nights. It was wearing a coat I didn't own, a heavy, dark wool thing that looked like it belonged to a different century. I stopped. The reflection didn't stop. It kept walking, passing through me as if I were smoke, exiting the lobby and stepping out into the rain. For a split second, I felt a chill pass through my chest, a profound and spiritual frost that froze my lungs. Then the image was gone, and I was standing alone in the lobby, shivering, the rain soaking the shoulders of my jacket. That night, the dread began to settle in. It wasn't a fear of something hiding in the closet, or a monster under the bed. It was worse. It was the realization that the boundaries of myself were dissolving. I tried to sleep, but the room felt too small. The silence was heavy, pressurized, like the air in a submarine descending too deep. Every creak of the settling building sounded like a footstep. Every rustle of the wind against the window sounded like a fingernail scratching at the glass. I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, and I felt it. A presence. It wasn't in the room with me. It was inside the room with Maya, inhabiting the same space, breathing the same air, living in the gaps between my seconds. I sat up. The darkness was absolute. I reached for the lamp, my fingers fumbling against the cool metal. I needed light. I needed to banish the shadows. But as the click of the switch echoed in the silence, the bulb didn't turn on. It flickered, a weak, sputtering gasp of yellow light, and then died. In that brief flash, less than a heartbeat, I saw him. He was sitting at the foot of my bed. I didn't scream. I couldn't. My throat felt full of sand. He was looking right at me, his face inches from my own. He looked older than he had in the lobby. The lines around his mouth were deep grooves of sorrow. His eyes were not eyes of malice, but of infinite, crushing tiredness. He wasn't trying to hurt me. He was just there. He was waiting. The darkness swallowed him again. I scrambled backward, kicking off the sheets, crashing to the floor in a tangle of limbs. I scrabbled for the door, my hand finding the knob, twisting it violently. I fled into the hallway, the lights there flickering on automatically, sensing my movement. I stood there, panting, my back against the wall, staring at the closed door of my bedroom. It was just a hallucination. Sleep paralysis. Stress. A breakdown. I repeated the words like a prayer, a shield against the madness that was encroaching on my life. I didn't go back into the room. I slept on the couch, the television turned to a volume just low enough to hear a talk show host's voice, a steady drone of comfort. The next morning, I called in sick. I couldn't face the world. I felt brittle, hollowed out. I walked past the mirror in the hallway, covering my eyes with my hand. I didn't want to see. I didn't want to know. But the silence in the apartment was deafening. It demanded to be acknowledged. You know the feeling when you walk into a room where someone has just been arguing? The air feels thick, charged with aggression. Or when you enter a house that has been empty for a long time, and the dust smells like abandonment? My apartment felt like a tomb that hadn't been sealed yet. I went into the kitchen to make coffee, my hands shaking. I needed to ground myself. I needed the mundane ritual of measuring grounds, boiling water, the smell of caffeine. I poured the water and watched the steam rise. It was peaceful. It was normal. I took a breath and let it out slowly. "Hello," I whispered. The sound of my own voice was jarring. "Hello," the voice answered. It wasn't an echo. It came from behind me. I didn't turn. I couldn't turn. I watched the steam rising from the cup, distorting the air. I saw a hand reach out and take the cup. It was a hand that looked like mine, but the knuckles were swollen with arthritis, the skin spotted with age. "I didn't mean to frighten you," the voice said. It was my voice, deepened by time, raspy and dry. I turned then. He was standing in the kitchen light. He looked terrible. He looked like a man who had not slept in a decade. He was wearing the dark wool coat again, and I saw now that it was stained, dark patches of dried liquid soaking the front. He looked at me with an expression of such profound pity that it broke something inside me. "Who are you?" I asked, though I already knew. "I am you," he said. "I am what is coming." He took a sip of the coffee. "Cold," he muttered. "Everything turns cold eventually." I backed away, the kitchen island digging into my spine. "This isn't real." "You're not real." "Real," he repeated, testing the word. "Is it real that you are lonely? Is it real that you fear the silence? I am the result of that silence. I am the shape your life takes when you stop running." He stepped closer. The air around him seemed to warp, the light bending as if his very existence was too heavy for the room to support. "You think you have choices," he whispered. "You think you can change careers, find love.